Yo, what's going on in Chicago, Illinois? Another cold day in the middle of winter. Very, very cold this morning. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. I'm a little bit thrown off because today I'm mixing things up. I'm moving the schedule around. Normally we do mukbangs on a Monday, but yesterday the things that I wanted to eat for the Monday mukbang hadn't got delivered yet. They got delivered during the live stream yesterday. So usually we go for a walk, check the mail, check for packages after a live stream, and in fact everything was there. So I figured rather than wait a week, because I just really wanted to eat this food and try it out, never had it before, I thought I would just move everything to Tuesday. So we're going to do a Tuesday mukbang this week, and this week we've got Mike's Mighty Good Ramen. It's vegetarian. Not all of them are vegetarian, but this one is. So we got some vegetarian craft ramen. They call it craft ramen. I didn't call it craft ramen. We'll see. I don't know what craft ramen really means. I guess I know what that means, but I don't know. We got that. And we'll have mother-in-law's kimchi. So I've never had that kind of kimchi before either. I mean, most of the kimchi is in like a glass jar with like a white sticker that someone printed at home. Like even when you buy it at the Korean grocery store, there usually isn't like a super like fancy like label on it. It's just kind of like homemade pickles kind of thing. And these kind that are like brands, I'm a little bit unfamiliar with. There's one that I've been getting. They sell it at Trader Joe's. It comes in a plastic jar. This one is actually glass, so I appreciate that. But I think we got this at Whole Foods. So we'll give this a try as well. Before we get into it, though, let's take a second to say hi to everyone listening on the podcast audio version. Hopefully you guys are doing well and having a good run out there today. And everyone watching this on YouTube after the fact, hopefully you're watching this like around dinner time or around meal time. So that way, we can eat together, even if you're not here live. All right. With that said, let's say hi to everyone who is here today. First, we got Mark Salzman, first on the line, coming in from Long Island, New York. That's Long Island. Very nice, Mark. Welcome. Awesome. That reminds me, though, anyone who is here for the first time, welcome to you all. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, if you're comfortable sharing that. Otherwise, if you just want to hang out and kind of take it all in today, totally cool. And yes, you are in the right space. This is the running YouTube channel, but for the live streams, it's just a bunch of runners hanging out doing things that runners do, which is, things that normal people do too. And today we're eating. So if you have a running question, feel free to drop it in the chat at any time. I'll make sure to get to it. If I don't get to it right away, and it's been a while, feel free to put it in there again. I'll definitely get it to it the second time. And I don't mean to make you guys repeat yourselves, but sometimes it just gets by me and goes too fast. Steve is here, says Tuesday mukbang, and it's blown his mind. Yeah, it doesn't have the alliteration. It's just really confusing to me too, but I really didn't want to go like a week before I get to eat some of these because it looks great. The ads on Instagram have been like just killing me. I'm a sucker for stuff that's sold on Instagram. That is probably the most effective way to sell me anything, is to make a lot of Instagram ads about it. And so, yeah, I mean, I even ordered this 2 times. The first time I tried to order it, like Amazon lost the order. I waited and waited and waited. And then I kind of gave up. But I was like, no, I'm still seeing the Instagram ads. I need to try this ramen. So we're going to do it today. Jana did an easy 5K today, testing a new playlist. Nice. And she met a dog buddy on the run. There you go. Felt okay, which is good. Good to hear that progress. And also managed to get the insole out easily, which she asked about yesterday. Good work. Awesome. Lots of progress today. Yeah, Jody's here, says, good day, everyone listening as I run again today. Awesome, Jody. Jody, I was thinking about you like today and yesterday because in our house, like everything is Australian right now. We've been watching Investigators, which I don't know, Jody, if you watch Investigators or not, but it's a show that's kind of like Odd Squad that's on PBS for those of you who have kids, but it's an Australian version of it and it's on Netflix. And it's about 4 kids who are about my daughter's age and they solve mysteries. And the mysteries are kind of appropriate for what the problems that afflict, 10-year-olds. So my daughter's 9, but, they're 10 and 11, I think, on the show. And so I've been watching that and I've been hearing a variety of different Australian accents kind of like in binge fashion. And then yesterday, Netflix recommended to us a show called Izzy's Koala World. Has anyone ever watched that? It's a really freaking cute show, super cute. And it's basically like if, I don't know, like if I were to film like an animal show, it's kind of like that. It's very much set to music. There's a lot of drone shots that are unnecessary but appreciated. There's also a lot of, not dolly shots, but follow shots on gimbals, which again are not necessary but appreciated and helps tell the story. And koalas are just really interesting animals. I don't know how they survive. Don't they have natural predators? They just move so slow. I don't know how that they continue to exist. So it's just all perplexing. And again, more Australian accent. So everything in the house right now is on Australian accent. So it's confusing, very confusing. And I've been thinking about people in Australia today, especially you, Jody. You're kind of like my proxy for Australians for right now. Rexella says, hello, fellow Capuzians. What's good? What's going on? And Carrie says, oh, snap. Oh, snap. Philip Bourne says, hi, everyone. Quite dead. So passively listening and waiting for my alarm to go off again in 8 hours. Oh, well, hopefully you can get some rest, man. Lewis says, what's going on? And David probably says, happy Tuesday to all. Jay Lee says, I like kimchi. You know that there's several kinds of kimchi. Hope you like it as well. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I wouldn't say like I'm a super kimchi connoisseur. I'll go, weeks and months without it. But I'm generally cautious of kimchi that has like English on it rather than Korean, because then usually it just doesn't quite taste as awesome. All right, let's crack this open. This one, it says open with caution over the sink is what it says here on the text on the side. It's taped. Let's cover my face. There we go. Open with caution over sink. And the reason why they say that is because it's very fermented. I'm not going to open it over the sink. I'm going to open it over my computer. So throwing caution to the wind here. And a lot of times it's almost like under pressure when you open a jar of kimchi, depending on how fermented it got. So, something that I feel like in the U.S. you don't really grow up thinking about is that pickles can continue to ferment over time, and kimchi is a fermented, pickled product. Oh, this one is hard to open. There we go. All right, no explosion. Let's get in here. Just looks like regular kimchi. Doesn't kind of smell like as much like the kimchi I'm used to. Tastes pretty good. This one is very vinegary. I don't usually like it as vinegary. There's like different levels of kind of, I'd say, cure for like the pickle. And it becomes more and more pickled. And I think of it like you can have a quick pickle of something, or you can have something that's pickled like in a pickle jar for a long amount of time. It will become more like pungent and strong. I usually tend to like my kimchi on the rather fresh side. So kind of just like almost like a quick pickle. This is somewhere in the middle, but it is very vinegary. So I'm not getting a lot of like the kimchi flavor to it, like the red pepper or the gochugaru flavor, like the pepper flavor to it. But maybe over time it'll kind of grow on me. Here's the ramen noodle. We'll give this a try. It's Mike's Mighty Good Craft Kimchi Flavored Ramen Noodle Soup. And a lot of things that are different about it. But it is made with an organic noodle. So I was like, it's 2020, 2021 when I was starting to think about ramen noodles. I'm like, can't they make one that's healthy? Can't they make one that's like good for you? Like soup is normally like a nourishing, good for you kind of food. Why can't ramen noodles be that way too? So I've been kind of looking at some of this stuff. The noodles look very different than normal like ramen noodles that I'm normally used to. So I'm kind of giving it a little side eye. We'll see how it goes. I'm not a huge fan of that. The noodles are, it's all about the noodle. And I feel like it feels a little bit limp. It doesn't seem to have that bite that ramen noodles tend to have. It's like that alkalinity that I apply to the noodle that kind of gives it almost like that deep fried kind of taste. And it gives it that bite, the ability to never get soggy, even in broth. I feel like this is more like it feels like an organic noodle that's not been treated with lye. And I guess that's good. But it's one of those things where like I don't really want a better ramen noodle. So I don't know. I'll eat it for sure and it's good. But I'm like, I wouldn't go out of my way to get this. I'd still prefer ramen any day. But so it's like interesting. And the noodles are not a uniform thickness, it seems. I don't know if that's intentional to make it look more like artisanal or if it is actually artisanal. But like there are different like thicknesses within the different strands. Yeah, it's just not as satisfying. It's almost kind of like a naengmyeon, like a buckwheat kind of noodle or a soba noodle. Very thin. It doesn't have that same. It's not as satisfying. The broth though is very good, and it does say on the bag, insanely rich broth. So it's can we get in that? It says insanely. There we go. Insanely rich broth. They're right. And cooking this was a little bit different. So like normally, I've been making ramen noodles for like 30 years by myself. And I've been eating it for longer than that. But normally, like you boil the water, you put in the noodle, like the puck of noodle, and then you also put in all like the little bags of seasonings, all at the same time. That's the way I always cook it. This one, it specifically said cook the noodles first, then take everything off the heat, and then add all the flavor packets. And there was a flavor packet and an oil packet. So that was interesting. It was different. Yeah, I mean, it's overall very good. Very good. And I do feel like it's kind of like a grown-up kind of like ramen noodle. I don't know if I'll buy it again, but I'll happily eat the rest of the box of noodles that I did buy. The kimchi's growing on me. It is very vinegary though. Not very like garlicky. I'm not getting a lot of. There's usually a little bit more depth of flavor in the kimchi. This one's okay. I think it's interesting they call it mother-in-law's kimchi. I feel like that's a very loaded term, especially in Asian cultures. And I'm sure that's intentional. That's why they went with it. But anyway, all right. Any questions about the ramen noodles today? Carl J says, speaking of kimchi, I've been binging Kim's Convenience while on the trainer lately. Funny show. I really like that show. It's a good one. It's a good one. I feel like, there was some legit like Korean writers on that show for sure. Because I mean, they had some deep cuts in there. When they're talking about the dongjims and stuff, that's for real. I remember those. I mean, you feared that when you were younger. It was funny. Martha says, this is going to be a serpent crutch mukbang. I'm glad we just ate. Yeah, it's going to be a little ASMR today. It's going to be a lot of noises. But it's tasty. I think that also the other thing was I didn't add anything to it, which is not how I normally eat ramen noodles. I normally like to add in an egg, and if I have any leftover rice or if I have any tofu around, I like to add it in there. But I didn't do anything today because I just wanted to taste the ramen on its own. I think with an egg and then with some tofu in there, maybe some other vegetables, I think that could really perk it up in a really, really nice way. Leona wanted to know any MSG in here in terms of the ingredients. First ingredient is organic unbleached wheat flour. And then I don't see any, let me see. I don't see MSG in here. I mean, there are things that have natural glutamates in here because you've got kombu extract, and you've got garlic. Garlic has natural glutamates in it, doesn't it? I thought it does. But yeah, I mean, most of these things are things that, are like foods. There's miso, which is going to have a lot of glutamates as well. Sunflower oil, potato starch, organic sugar, sea salt, chili pepper, organic wheat, yeast extracts, fermented soybean sauce, which is going to be your flavor bomb there. But yeah, I mean, it's a surprisingly short list of ingredients for a ramen. So I feel like, as far as having food that's pretty straight up, it is laudable. And then they could still do it in a shelf-stable, package like this. I think is a pretty cool thing. I'll give you guys a pro tip for the kimchi. Super pro tip is most Korean people have a kimchi fridge. Like most Americans will have like a beer fridge downstairs or in the garage. Korean people have a kimchi fridge. You keep the kimchi in that one, not in your main fridge because kimchi stinks up your fridge. If you do not have, here's like the semi-pro tip. If you do not have a separate fridge that you can put your kimchi in, put it in like I double up. I double bag it in shopping bags, like the plastic ones, and then you put it inside the shopping bag, and then like wrap it up on the top to kind of like seal it in so that the smells don't permeate the entire fridge. The thing being, like once kimchi like smell gets into your fridge, it like soaks into the plastic. So like you gotta be careful with that. You always know when like a Korean person has been in the fridge. Just letting you guys know. All right. Lucas Lully says, Kofuzi, how do I explain to a non-runner the joy and excitement of running? I think of it as like a physical meditation, right? And so like that's kind of how I explain it to people like that are like, why would you want to do that? What do you want to get out there for? And usually it's depending on how much time I have. It might start out being like, it started out as being like a thing you did kind of to get in shape. It was a means to an end. And then after a while, it became the end in and of itself because it became enjoyable. It became a form of meditation. It became a time to center myself. It became a time to just enjoy the act in and of itself. And so like that's kind of how I explain it. So everyone has their thing that kind of centers them and kind of like rejuvenates them. And for me, it's running. All right. Roadrunner Reviews, what's going on? He says, what's going on? Good to see you. All right. What else we got in here? Scotty B says, hey, all first timer checking in from Minnesota. Good to see you, Scotty. Good to see you again. Awesome. Yeah, and Leona says that's good. As far as the ingredients, sounds pretty natural. I mean, this is probably like the shortest ramen like ingredients list I've ever seen, because normally I'm eating top ramen, mancharan, ichiban, noguri, or like shinramen. Like those are like probably the most common that I eat. And those like half the back of the package is taken up by all the different like chemicals and stabilizers and other additives that they add to it. So it's pretty impressive. All right. Sarah Mim says, I really enjoy vinegar taste. I like that German potato salad has a bit of this flavor. Yeah, I'm a big fan of really mayonnaise-y potato salad, but I've had German potato salad before, and like as long as you're not going in thinking it's going to be mayonnaise-y, then I do think it's pretty good. I really enjoy a very vinegary pickle for lots of things, especially like pickled red onions, especially if it's like a quick pickle. It's super delicious. I love it. Very vinegary. It's like a pucker up punch in the face. I love it. But with kimchi, I guess, like you go up eating it like tasting a certain way and you kind of expect a certain thing, I think, maybe that's what it is. You just kind of, you like what you grew up eating. I feel like it's kind of like pizza in a way. Not that kimchi is pizza. They're very different things, but in terms of like the preferences and what a person will think is the best is probably what kind of like the flavors you ate growing up. And for a lot of people, I mean, for me, it was a lot of the kimchi that I did eat growing up was someone's grandmother making it, like at the church growing up. Like the grandmothers would get together and make a giant batch and they give it out to all the different church members. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of how like I got a lot of kimchi growing up. Oh, Scott said today is National Pizza Day. It is. Of all the days to move the mukbang and then to not have pizza on today, that's a mistake. But I'm glad I had the mics mighty good. They have a whole bunch of other flavors. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 different kinds. I think at least 2 of them are vegetarian. So I might try some other ones. All right, Ryan Luma says, I make a healthy ramen at home that my wife and I love. We boil dried shiitake mushrooms in bone broth and add Asian seasonings like soy sauce, garlic, ginger, mirin, and then add the noodles. Yum. What kind of noodles do you add to that, Ryan? That'd be like the big thing that I'd want to know. Because I feel like for me, like, I don't know, as good as this broth is, like I will tolerate a moderately good broth, but I like really need the noodle to be tasty. That was a sour big bite of that kimchi. But it might not be like the kind of kimchi that I'm most familiar with. But I will say that like it certainly hits the spot to eat with ramen noodles. I feel like the pairing is really good. Because usually with the ramen noodles, you got a very salty, almost like fatty broth, if it's good. And then to have something like acidic and crunchy is always, and cold compared to the hot, like the flavor contrasts are really nice. it's overall, this is working for me. But I think I need to add some rice in here, maybe some eggs. Yeah. All right, let's scroll down on the bottom. All right. Martha says, "OMG, that mic picks up that crunch." Martha says, "We only eat mother-in-law kimchi with other foods, and now you can see why. Yeah. I mean, like by itself, it wasn't. It's okay by itself. Maybe if I give it more time to let it kind of ferment a little bit more, it'll be more of what I like. Some of like the harshness from the vinegar might die down, but with other foods, it's working." Will Willing says, "Kofuzi, yesterday someone asked about midsoles holding up over a year. Do midsoles break down over time even without use?" I would say yes. I think so. I've never really tested it. And that'd be an interesting. Who would be the best person to test this out would be Seth, because he has a storage locker now that I believe is temperature controlled, where you can just leave stuff where children won't accidentally get into it and won't be in anyone's way. So I feel like we should get on him and be like, go to Ross, buy 5 pairs of the same shoe and just keep them for 5 years and see how, and run in them once a year to see how they do. That would be an interesting kind of like test, because I do think that they would kind of just like, I just feel like over time you've seen, well, here's why I think that. I've seen from kind of like the sneakerhead YouTube kind of market, when people are searching for their grails and they're looking for like, man, when I was in high school, like this shoe was really popular, but we could never afford them. So I just felt like this was a shoe that I wanted to get later in life. And they would go and get like original, not like re-released Jordan 3s, but they would get actual Jordan 3s that came out whenever, that would have been like the late 80s. And they would go get those, and they would be, the leather would be like all crinkly and kind of falling apart, and they would step in them and they'd be like, I wore them because I had to wear them, but it wasn't as comfortable, as I remember Jordans being. And so like I've seen things like that where like just the EVA is not holding up well. Now, when we're talking about other things like Power on PB, Boost, Zoom X, I don't know, but I would suspect that there would be some issues with it, but I also suspect the bigger thing would be that the upper would get like kind of crusty and crunchy before really you see a lot of degradation in performance in the EVA. But that's kind of my hunch. I'd love to see data on that. On the other hand, I'm like, man, EVA is going to sit in a landfill for like 50 million years. What's a year going to possibly do to it? But, whether something degrades back into the environment from which it came, or whether it's going to feel as soft underfoot as you're running, I guess those are different things. Jason Dahl says, I plan on testing that out with my Peg Trail 2 GTX. I only foresee using them in the winter, so they'll be hibernating this spring, summer, fall, and we'll report back in December. Yeah, I'd love to hear about it, Jason. Yeah, I think a lot of people do that with their winter shoes, or like their trail. For me, it'd be like, that's when I go through trail shoes the most, so yeah. Martha says, I store the shoes that I'm hoarding in our cool, dry basement. I know I've said this before, but I was told to wrap them in plastic wrap and store them, and the midsoles would be fine. Otherwise, how do we know how old shoes are that we buy online late in an iteration or on sale? Yeah. Yeah, that's what always that's what worries me a lot about buying shoes on like Amazon. It's like, where did this shoe come from? It's a little bit older. What was it stored like? Like that. So like, yeah, buying shoes on Amazon, I've only done it 1 or 2 times, and it always makes me very nervous. But how do you tell the difference between a shoe that's been like sitting in a warehouse that's relatively temperature controlled, or like that people have bought, at a Ross or something and are now reselling it, I'm not sure. And I wish that there were a better way to track kind of like, not expiration dates, and not serial numbers, but something of like a, like beer has like a born on date, or not all beer, but what is that? Is that Anheuser-Busch that has a born on date? I kind of wish there was something like that. But I suspect that all that we would do is, I don't know, maybe that would encourage people to buy more shoes, because they'd be like, ooh, this was born a year ago. But then I also wonder, like, for shoes like the Pegasus, it's not like they just made this and then shipped it over and now it's in my hands. This was probably made 6 months ago, so like, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Maybe I'll see if Thomas has any idea on that. Thomas would know that. Believe in the run, because he's more plugged into like the manufacturing side. New Betra says, I was really excited to see the Invincible video today, but I'm curious if the swoosh and tech will make a $180 trainer fly. I think absolutely. Think about, what does the Infinity run cost? It doesn't cost 180. What does it cost? Like 150, 160? The turbo cost 180, didn't it? Like every other person in Chicago had a turbo when like the turbo came out. When the turbo 2 came out, it's the same thing. I still see people running in turbos. I saw a dude today, he was walking, but I saw a dude today out on the path in turbo shields. So, people are still out in their turbos. And I still see people out in their Infinity 1s. I don't know that I've seen Infinity 2s, although I think it might be kind of hard to pick out the Infinity 2s right now in the wintertime. Maybe in the summer I'll be able to see it a little bit clearer. But I think that they'll sell I think they're going to sell a lot of those. I think, if they can keep up with the demand on the Zoom X, I still think like they're having problems making enough of it at a consistent enough level of quality, and that's why the date keeps pushing. But as long as they can keep making them, I feel like they'll make a bunch of them like they did the turbo, like 6 or 7 different colors. Then like they'll just keep making more and more and more. Maybe we'll see collab editions. I could see it happening. It's a good shoe. Is it worth $180? Was the turbo, if the turbo was worth $180, this is worth $180. So I would say that. That's kind of like my take on it so far. I still do need to put in more miles in it. I'd like to put in like the next run. I'll probably, I don't know that I'll wait till after my Shamrock Shuffle, because until March, I don't have any runs on the schedule that are longer than 13. But I'd like to do like a 15-mile run. I'd like to do a 20-mile run and see how I feel in it. I have a feeling I'm going to really love them. I feel like at mile 19, mile 20. And Albert Long says Nikes will sell, always sell, no matter what. Yeah, the Joyride didn't. And then I saw a dude wearing the other day walking around. What was that shoe that they made like specifically for Phil Knight? And not Phil Knight like the young Phil Knight, like Phil Knight today, Phil Knight, It had like an unfinished tongue on top and those giant circles along the midsole or on the bottom. Does anyone remember that? What was that shoe? That shoe didn't sell. The Cruiser. Was that it? New Betra says the Cruiser. I think that was it. So like, yeah, I don't think, I don't, not every shoe sells, but this one I think is. Ben Browning says, Mike, you have a lot of other YouTubers with your shirts on their videos. Oh, awesome. Cool. I love to see that. I think it's nice. I think it's better when YouTube is more like we're part of like the, the Marvel universe rather than standalone films kind of thing. Like when we're all, we all exist in each other's world, and it just makes more sense. And we're all here because we're fans of running content. So we should show our fandom, So that's kind of how I see it too. And I want to support all these guys. And this is the best way that I can, not only buying their shirts, but also, wearing them like I do. I don't have a lot of space for shirts. It's not like I didn't buy these just to put them on camera. These are the shirts that I have. So this is what I wear, Andreas Calusa says, Kofuzi, I really like how you explain the joys of running. The core for me is that it's refreshing and, as you said, rejuvenating. I'm the eternal 39-year-old, even for the next 20 years, Yeah. I just feel like you can connect to your surroundings in a different way. All right, PG coming in with the PB for today. Let me get my cowbell ready. Sorry, I caught me off guard. He said he's got the 5K in 22 minutes today for a PB. Congratulations, PG. Great work. Tab Hunter says, any plans for a 98 singlet? I had a quick check and couldn't see one online. None right now. Now is the time for me to start planning on it. Last year was going to be the year that I did it, but totally dropped the ball on that one. last year was an unusual year. So I feel like, you know, I'm not too, down about it. But this year, hopefully I can get it done this year. The key is to get one that I really like, the one that I would want to wear for like a marathon. There's a lot of singlets out there, but to get one that I would really enjoy wearing for a long distance, there's not as many. And so like finding a place where I can get them and get them printed, like customized, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So we'll see. All right. Yeah. Ben Browning says, UK guys both gushing over Ben Park's run hat. Yeah. I mean, Ben Parks has some of the best merch. I feel like he does the best job. And I think it's his mom that does all like the actual packaging, but there's like a handwritten note. I think it's from Ben, but I guess it could be Ben's mom writing the note as Ben. But there's usually a handwritten note when you buy something from him, and it's wrapped really nicely and thoughtfully, and the product is good. So I aspire to be like Ben in the merch department. Stateside, I would say Ginger Runner does a great job as well, just because I think he's designing it himself, and he has an attention to detail that is just superb. I love everything he does. All right. And as Dunbar says, you got to do 2-inch shorts. Niche market. That's funny. Very funny. I don't know if the 2-inch shirts would be my thing. I think a half tight would probably be more fitting for me, and I would get a lot of use out of it. I probably get a lot more use out of a half tight than I would a singlet, but personally. But I don't know. Either one could be good. All right. Let's see. Oh, Scott says, I wore my non-elite shirt in my last video. Thanks, Scott. Awesome. Very cool. Spence Ohm says, for him, his local running store is clearing a ton of orange boxes right now at, I think, $45. Not sure if I need more shoes. Yeah. I feel like it's, there's always more shoes than I have miles that I can run. It's definitely been the problem for me, because you want to try them all. That's how I feel about it. All right. Oh, here's one that I wanted to get to earlier. Stevie76 says, is there going to be ZoomX and more shoes? Yeah. So I think that, I don't know why they killed off the turbo, but I'm wondering if and I thought at this point they were fine, because it's not like Vaporflies are impossible to get anymore. It wasn't like before where it's you have to know someone or be a regular at a shoe store and have someone hold a pair for you or something like that. Remember that? Remember how hard it was to get Vaporflies at first? But I still think that ZoomX is the limiting factor. I feel like that's what happened with the Vomero 15. That's my understanding. I mean, all I hear is rumors, and I'm not even that deep into the Nike rumor kind of websites or anything. I'll try to stay away from that stuff. But they were saying that it was only a limited release, basically only in the UK, because that's how many that they were able to make. And then they had so many problems and delays with it that they were just we'll scrap it and we'll do something different for 16, for the Vomero 16, hopefully in a way that is easier on the manufacturing side of things to make than the Vomero 15 was. And so I don't know if it's just the ZoomX or how they were trying to put the ZoomX into the shoe, or maybe it just didn't work the way they were trying to put, was it React Foam and ZoomX in the Vomero 15? So for the Vomero 16, we're supposed to get ZoomX. I mean, we still got Vaporfly Next Percents. We got the Next Percent 2 coming out this year. I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of, either they're going to continue making Alpha Flies or have an Alpha Fly update. I suspect that they'll just make more Alpha Fly versions, a third Eliud Kipchoge colorway or a second or however many he's got, and just keep making more color versions of it. If not, come up with a modest update in an Alpha Fly 2. So that's a lot of ZoomX right there between just those 3 shoes. And then if you're doing the Invincible, that's a lot of ZoomX foam in the midsole, because it's all ZoomX. And then if you have the Tempo Next Percent, I don't know that there's going to be a Tempo Next Percent 2. I haven't heard one way or the other. But that's another shoe that's got, yes, there's React in the heel on that one, I believe. But still a lot of ZoomX and a Zoom Air pocket. So like there's a lot of shoes with ZoomX in it. And if that's hard to make, you know, then, or hard to like get into the shoe to work in a way that works, you know, that could be the limiting factor in terms of why like certain dates get pushed back. So we'll see. Chad and Ruth says, how do you stop your feet and toes from freezing? Usually that's when I just pick up the pace a little bit. Normally I don't like to double up socks. So like I'll, I'll wear a thicker sock. I'm pretty much in the wintertime, all my socks that I'm running in are over the calf socks. So a little bit longer, a little bit more padding. In the summertime, I'm like a no-show sock, you know, super low cut, the thinnest one that I can get. The summertime, I'm the opposite. So I go with a thicker sock. I don't double up. I gravitate more towards trail shoes or shoes that have water resistance or waterproofing like Gore-Tex, because it just keeps a little bit more of the wind out as well. So that's kind of how I keep my feet warm. And if all that doesn't help, throw in a burst of strides, pick up the pace for a little bit, just get your blood flowing a little faster, and that'll warm you up just a little bit more. That usually brings the feeling back into your toes too. Like yesterday's long run, for example, it was just supposed to be an easy, 12 to 13 miles or 2 or less than 2 hours out there, but it was cold. Yesterday was like 5 degrees, I want to say, something like that, 3 degrees, really, basically zero. And, but, I don't want to overstate, but it was single digits Fahrenheit. And I was like, I don't think that I'm going to last this entire long run. And I don't want to start off the week shorting my mileage. So I called an audible like 2 miles into the run and said, all right, I'm just going to do 2 miles warm up, 10 miles moderate, and then like, a half mile cool down, just because I don't want to be out here that long. So that's something that, I didn't think that's the exact workout that I have for the following Monday. I just did it a week ahead of time. So I didn't feel like I was doing something too crazy in terms of what's intended. So that's what I did, mainly to keep my feet from freezing and so that my eyes wouldn't, gum up too bad. Those are kind of like the two places where I'm really feeling it. Over the course of the run on Monday, my feet felt great. So that worked. But, my face was really cold and my hands were really cold too. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got down here. Well, we got McLovin in here. Where is that? Let me see. I saw McLovin. So, let me scroll up. I don't see it. Where did it go? Curtis Loss is here. MCM says, do you watch Ed Bud's videos? I do, but a lot of times he's talking about shoes that I'm about to review, so I stay away from those. But yeah, I love Ed Bud. You know how Ed Bud and I met, you guys? Ed Bud and I met because, and here's the first thing I ever did for Ed Bud, I messed up. So I was on Instagram and I got a message from Charlotte, his wife. This was before they got married. And she reached out to me and was like, we're going to get married in a little bit. Can you, would you mind saying something to Ed? He's a big fan. And it would be like a really nice thing that, if I could get one of his favorite running YouTubers to like give him a personalized message, like on our wedding day. And I was like, oh, totally. I could do that. And then I totally forgot about it until like a week or two later. And I just felt miserable about it. I don't know. I think I did send the video at some point, but that's kind of like how I first I knew about Ed Bud and his channel already before that. I think I did. I'm pretty sure because he started somewhere around there. I'm not sure, but that's how we met. Is through his wife. So a good woman. All right. Jeff Elliott says, is it possible to make the half tights a little thicker / more modest? I feel like I'm wearing underwear in a lot of them. Well, is it the Harrier tight? The Tracksmith one is lined. So that one, it's a second layer. So it is going to be a little bit more modest. And I do really enjoy that half tight. But yeah. I usually am going with running underwear, sometimes runnerwear, but running underwear underneath the tights and the half tights otherwise. But I certainly do feel kind of like the concern. When I was run commuting, I would be like, oh yeah, I'm picking up the girls after school today. I'm not going to wear tights today. I'm going to go with the 5-inch shorts. So that's I'm, or I'd go with tights and shorts on top, you know. So that's kind of like where I'd go with that. And Martha says, I'd buy half tight. It's one of my favorite lengths. Me too. Side thigh pocket requested officially right here. Yeah, I mean, that's why I like my favorite ones. They're cheap. They're not that expensive, and they have the pockets. Is the Roadrunner Sports Challenger 7-inch half tight. They come in gray and they come in black. All the colors that you'll need. And they have a zipper side pocket on the left hip and then a drop-in pocket on the right hip. I usually leave the zip pocket open so I could put gels on each side, and it's perfect. It really works. The material is not like the most premium of materials as far as half tights go, but like for summer running, it's great and it's super versatile. And I have multiple of them because they really work for me. All right. Someone was asking earlier, just remind me. Someone asked earlier about Bobos. What are Bobos? They were like, I know Seth loves them, but what are they? I think that Bobos is just a food company. I don't know if he's got a sponsorship or what, or if he just loves them or they just send him stuff, you know, kind of like something in between being sponsored or not. But he does love his Bobos. I was going to do some Bobos. I've been looking at what to get. But usually like a lot of the Bobos flavors have peanuts in it. And so like, I know I do order some stuff with peanuts in it from time to time, but like, I was like, maybe I can find a variety pack that doesn't have so many peanuts in it. So I've been looking. I've been trying to figure out what to do with Bobos. Do I get the cookie? They have so many products. Do they cookies? Do I do the muffins? Do I do the bars? I think they make granola as well. So they make a lot of stuff. Yeah. And Matt Legrand says about Ginger Runner. He says he's amazing. He is. And Matt loves the fact that he does his own music sometime. Yeah, it's amazing. I think I always appreciated Ginger Runner's reviews because I just love the way he lays it out and it makes a lot of sense. Very like well thought out reviews. But I also I fell in love with Ginger Runner's work this is how I am with everybody. If someone is like, my thing is review videos, my favorite is their vlogs. Like when I first started watching Jamie, I love his review videos, but I love the vlogs. I love the antics. I love all the other stuff. With Ginger Runner, the same thing. The first thing that I saw him do was one year, he and Kim, this is when they lived in Los Angeles. They ran, it was like a Christmas run. And they were like, yeah, we're just going to go see Santa, and then come back. And it was 10 miles to go see Santa. I was like, you guys just banged out 20 miles together on a Saturday? I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty cool. What a great way to spend a morning with someone, you know? I'm like, that was awesome. And this is when I don't think I could run 20 miles. So I was like, that's amazing. And like they got home and they weren't like, that was the longest I've ever run. And I was just like, how are these people still standing? But it was just so much fun. And I don't know if the music was his on that one. But what I'm pretty sure was the music on his was when he did his series of saying goodbye to Los Angeles. Do you remember? Did you watch that, Matt? I think it was like 6 or maybe, whose dog is that? Is that our dog? I don't think that's our dog. We have new neighbors, and they have 2 English bulldogs. One is super old and gets carried around in a wagon, and the other one is just like traditional, like super fat, slobbery English bulldog, and I love them. But they bark every time I walk by. But anyway, so he had made a series of like saying goodbye to Los Angeles before they moved back up to the Pacific Northwest, and it kind of like went over his like kind of life and history in Los Angeles, and it was so amazing. I mean, he had drone footage, he had vlog footage, running footage. You know, I mean, I think not a lot of people do nostalgia like Ginger Runner's nostalgia. I mean, that's really his wheelhouse. He's very good at it, and like he's just a great storyteller. You know, I mean, he could tell you, I ran 8 times to run 100 miles this week, and it's one of the best things that you'll watch on the internet all week. You know what I mean? He's so good at that. But that Los Angeles series was really amazing. I loved that. It was so good. All right. Rob Van Spown says ZoomX versus React. Ooh, I mean ZoomX. It's a special foam. It's really nice. React, I think, is hit or miss. I think they fiddle around with it a little bit too much. I think that they also fiddle around with ZoomX. Not all ZoomX is created equal. The ZoomX foam in the 4% version 1 is very different than the 4% Flyknit. Is very different than the ZoomX that's in the next percent. Is different than the ZoomX that's in the Alpha Fly. It's all a little bit different. But the React that's in like the Epic React 1, which again, it might just be nostalgia, but I loved it. It was probably the best. My second favorite version of React was probably in the Turbo, but it has the ZoomX in it, so it's kind of hard to separate out which part you really love. Third is probably the Zoomfly Flyknit, and then fourth is probably the Terra Kiger 5. So like those are the React foams that I like. Sometimes React foam can be really stiff, like in the Peg 37, and it's not as enjoyable. So it's hit or miss for me. Mark Salzman wants to know what's the best running underwear brand. Runderwear is really good. I think that's UK based. So, I mean, that's the popular, obvious choice if you're over on that side of the pond. I think in the US, lately I've been really enjoying the Path Project's base layers. They're super thin and almost not sheer as in see-through, but like they're very soft, like almost silky. So very comfortable, no chafe. Part of that is like they sent me a bunch of them, so I just have a lot of them. So it's very convenient. It's an easy choice for me. But I have a couple pair from like Under Armour. I have a couple that are just like generic branded, like athletic underwear that are just not, they don't cut it. They start to chafe after a certain number of miles. So those are ones that I really like. Yeah, that's what's in my repertoire right now. All right, let's get a couple more and then I'll have to get going for today. Sean says, how was the chat with Jamie on Saturday? It was good. It was good to see him, you know, and good to hear from him and good to hear him kind of like, not that he has to do that for me, but kind of like go over, you know, where he's been, not where he's been, but like what he's been going through. You know, it's good to kind of hear him talk about it. I kind of like, you know, sensed it. He talked about it and hinted at it from time to time, but, you know, it's good to hear it from him. And it's just good to connect. You know, it's one of those conversations. I'm more of an introvert. I mean, yeah, I may be the guy that's on live stream every day, but I'm more of an introvert. And conversations for me, even ones that I really enjoy, can be very tiring. But that one afterwards, I just felt great. You know, is one of those just like really enriching conversations. I don't know what we talked about, but I had a great time doing it. You know, one of those kinds of conversations. It was good. It was good. All right. Daniel South says, I wore Nova Blast today, 2 pairs of thick socks, and the feet were still freezing. It's a very breathable upper, for sure. It's got a whole bunch of extra junk on it that it doesn't need. Still very breathable, though. So that's not a surprise that you were still cold. But, you know, I don't know where you are, Daniel, so it could also be where you're at, too. And it says, I find merino wool socks are good if it's cold and your feet get wet. You know, people say that, and I've never really noticed a huge difference with merino socks. I notice it when I'm wearing them around like the house, you know, like during the day. But like for running, I don't know if just like, I don't know, but I just can't tell really a difference between like merino socks and just other like running socks, whatever it is. And that's it. I don't even know what's in a regular running sock, but yeah, I don't know. It just, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be one of the areas where I feel I'd rather spend the money on merino and other elements of clothing. I love it in shirts. It's amazing. But buffs, hats, like on the extremities, I don't like the merino so much. But I know a lot of people do. Old Fool's Goal said, how long to get to a 459 mile from 530? I'm 17. Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not sure how to guide you there because I've never been 530 or 459 for the mile. I think the fastest I've ever been is like 540 something in high school. And I think at the summer I got kind of close back to that again. But I would say how long to get there, it depends on how long it took you to get to 530. If you're just like, hey, I'm going to try this running thing, and you're like, well, let's run 4 times around the track and see how long it takes me to run a 1,600 meters, which is not a mile, but a 1,600 meters. and you got 530, then I think that you could probably get to 459 pretty quick at 17. But if it took you a while and you trained specifically for a 530 to get to 459, might take you a season or two, so it could depend. But once you start getting like a little bit under 5, that's where I think that a little bit of natural ability will start to come into play. But at your age, really putting some effort into it and some consistency into it, I think you should be able to get there. That being said, like if someone told me when I was like 17 years old, hey, you know what? If you work really hard at this for the next 3 months, you can get to under 5 minutes for a mile. I'd be like, no way. So I would say dream big, go after it, craft together a plan that's specifically going to target the kinds of workouts that you're going to need and work on your long run. Because even at a mile race, it's super fast, but super short. But you're going to need some aerobic base too. All right. I think that's probably a good place to end it for today, everybody. Thanks everyone for tuning in and tolerating the change up, the Tuesday mukbang, which makes no sense, but I enjoyed it. Overall, do I recommend the mics? I would say if you're looking for something that has fewer ingredients that you can feel better about eating, but still have a good product, I'd say, yeah, it's worth going for. But if ramen is your splurge food and you don't care what's in it anyway, then I would say maybe not. Stick with the Shin Ramen, but it's a good one. I enjoyed it. The mother-in-law's kimchi, I think I need more time with it to really figure it out. But that's the Tuesday mukbang for today. Tomorrow's video is going to be, that's the one I told you about yesterday, but I messed up the order. Tomorrow's video is going to be about those earbuds that I ended up not really liking so much, but I'll tell you all about it. And then we'll do Trivia Wednesday because everything's going to shift back a day. So we'll do I'll probably still do happy hour on Thursday, but we'll do one more day of a messed up schedule. Trivia Wednesday tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully I'll see you guys then. In the meantime, be safe and stay warm out there, everybody. Thanks.